Hey everyone, today we're going to discover 15 of the most intriguing old lighthouses. These are guardians of the coast that have stood the test of time, guiding mariners through treacherous waters. These structures, often perched on rugged cliffs, not only a navigational aid, but they hold centuries of maritime history. Let's start with number 15, the Tower of Hercules Lighthouse in Spain. This lighthouse is known to have existed by the 1st century, built or perhaps rebuilt under Trajan, possibly on foundations following a design that was Phoenician in origin. The design was based on the original plans of the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Its base preserves a cornerstone with an inscription ascribing the tower's design to the architect Gaius Sevius Lupus, as an offering to the Roman god of war Mars. The outline of the ramp is still visible in the restored exterior, and the final story of the tower was likely topped with a dome. In 1788, the surviving 34-meter tower core was given a neoclassical restoration, including a new 21-meter fourth story. This restoration was undertaken by a naval engineer during the reign of Charles III of Spain and was finished in 1791. UNESCO praised the work, the Tower of Hercules. It was restored in the 18th century as an exemplary manner, which has protected the central core of the original Roman monument while restoring its technical functions. Through the millennia, many historical stories of the lighthouse's origin have been told. According to one of these myths, Hercules slayed the giant Geryon after 3 days and 3 nights of continuous battle. Hercules then, in a traditional Celtic gesture, buried the head of Geryon with his weapons and ordered that a city be built on the site. The lighthouse, standing atop a skull and the crossbones representing the buried head of Hercules' slain enemy, appears in the coat of arms in the city of A Coruña. Number 14, the Bishop Rock Lighthouse in England. The Bishop Rock is a skerry off the British coast in the northern Atlantic Ocean, known for its lighthouse. It's in the westernmost part of the Isles of Scilly, an archipelago about 45 kilometers off the southwestern tip of the Cornish Peninsula of Great Britain. The Guinness Book of Records lists it as the world's smallest island with a building on it. Now, the original iron lighthouse was begun in 1847, but it was washed away before it could be completed. The present building was completed in 1858, and it was first lit on September 1st that year. Bishop Rock is also at the eastern end of the North Atlantic shipping route used by ocean liners in that route, where they could compete for transatlantic speed records, known as the Blue Riband. An 1818 report by the Surveyor General of the Duchy of Cornwall on the dangers of shipping in Cornwall proposed that a lighthouse be built similar to the Eddystone Light upon Bishop Rock, given its location as the westernmost rock of the Isles of Scilly. The government didn't take up the offer, but Trinity House surveyed Bishop Rock in 1843 with a view to building a lighthouse, and under their engineer-in-chief, James Walker, construction work began in 1847. Bishop Light is often referred to as the King of the Lighthouses, and it is indeed a very impressive structure. With a height of 49 meters, the lighthouse is the equal tallest in England, together with the Eddystone Light. Number 13, Treacherous Lighthouse in Iceland. This lighthouse is an active lighthouse about 7.2 kilometers off the southwestern coast of Iceland. It's often described as one of the most isolated in the world. Now, the name means 3 rock pillars, referring to the 3 named sea stacks at that location. The lighthouse was constructed during 1938 and 39, originally built by hand without machinery, and was accessible only by scaling the tallest of 3 rocky stacks, whose top is 36 meters above the sea, who recruited experienced mountaineers to scale the sea stacks. Their climbing tools didn't allow them to bite into the rock near the top, and there were no handholds, so they made a 3-person human stack. 1 man on his knees, a second atop him, and a third one climbing onto the second one for the final leg. According to Arnie, the first thing we had to do was create a road up the cliff. We got together experienced mountaineers, all from the Westman Islands. We then brought drills, hammers, chains, and clamps to secure the chains. Once we got near the top, there was no way to get any grip on the rock, so one of them got down on his knees, the second stood on his back, and the third climbed on top of the other 2 and was able to reach the nib of a cliff above. I can't tell you how I was feeling whilst witnessing this incredibly dangerous procedure. Well, the crew stayed on the rock in tents for a month. During the construction, electronics were installed 3 years later. The lighthouse was commissioned on July 5, 1942, during World War II. A helipad for helicopter access was added in the 1950s. Number 12, Nugget Point Lighthouse, New Zealand. This lighthouse is located in the Otago region of the South Island of New Zealand. It's owned and operated by Maritime New Zealand. It was built from 1869 to 1870 and first lit on July 4, 1870. The lighthouse apparatus that was installed had to come to New Zealand on the same ship as the lighthouse designer James Balfour in 1863, and was originally intended for the light at Cape Saunders. With the project on Otago Peninsula experiencing many delays, the lighting apparatus was used at Nugget Point instead. In 1901, Walter Hutton Champion was the lighthouse keeper along with his wife Alice. Now originally the lighthouse was powered by an oil burner. In 1949, the oil lamp was replaced with an electric 1,000-watt lamp powered by a local diesel generator. The generator was then replaced in the 1960s by a connection to the mains grid, although the original lens for the light remained in place and continued to be used. The light was fully automated in 1989, and it's now monitored and managed from a maritime New Zealand control room in Wellington. In 2006, the original light was replaced with an LED beacon, powered by mains and backed up by battery. The light was solarized in May of 2020 and now has no mains power. An easy 20-minute return walking track leads from the car park at the end of the Nuggets Road to a viewing platform right next to the lighthouse. The lighthouse itself, though, is fenced off. Number 11. The Aneva Cape Lighthouse in Russia. This lighthouse is one of the most inaccessible lighthouses in Russia. For years, it had been warning ships off the dangerous coast of the rocky Aneva Cape in the Sea of Okhotsk. Today it stands abandoned but remains a highly popular tourist attraction. The abandoned tower does have a long history. Before the Japanese were ousted from the Sakhalin Islands by the Russian in the final days of World War II, they had managed to erect a lighthouse on one of the most inaccessible places of the island. The construction began in 1937 and lasted for 2 years. In 1939, the Aneva Light was erected on the hard-to-reach rocky cape. This lighthouse was necessary because the waters here are deadly for vessels. Underwater currents, frequent fog, and rocky shoals threaten to destroy ships. It consists of a concrete rounded-shaped tower with a lower outhouse, and it's about 31 meters tall and has 9 floors. Initially, the first floor was designed as a storehouse for equipment and the second floor as a room for radio communication. Floors from the 3rd to the 5th were set aside for living quarters complete with bunk beds, where up to 12 people could reside at the same time. The light that it produced was visible up to 35 kilometers away, and in 1990 Russia recalled the personnel from the light, switching instead to an automatic mode. The lighthouse was equipped with a radioisotope thermoelectric generator that powered it until 2006. Today, however, the structure stands unused and abandoned. Number 10. The Ponce de Leon Inlet Light in Florida. So this lighthouse and museum, located at Ponce de Leon Inlet in central Florida, is 53 meters in height. It's the tallest lighthouse in the state and one of the tallest in the U.S. It became a National Historic Landmark in 1998. Unfortunately, the oil lamp was never delivered, and soon after the tower was completed, a strong storm washed much sand from around the base of the tower, weakening it. There were many shipwrecks along the coast near this Mosquito Inlet, but it wasn't until 1883 that another effort was begun to place a light there. Construction was supervised by Chief Engineer Orville E. Babcock until his death in the drowning in the Mosquito Inlet in 1884. The tower was completed and the lamp, which could be seen from 30 kilometers away, was lit in 1887. In 1897, author and journalist Stephen Crane was en route to cover a brewing revolt against Spanish rule in Cuba when the ship he was on, the SS Commodore, sank off the coast of Florida. Crane used this experience in his short story The Open Boat. In 1982, the light was restored to active service. The Ponce de Leon Inlet Light was designated a National Historic Landmark on August 5, 1998, one of only 11 lighthouses to earn this designation. Number 9. Sletnes Lighthouse in Norway. Sletnes Lighthouse is the northernmost mainland lighthouse on Earth. This is in the easternmost of the 3 Nordkapp area lighthouses, and it's often considered the North Cape Light, marking the top of Europe. Fruholmen Lighthouse is located about 500 meters farther north on the island of Ingoya, but Sletnes Lighthouse is the northernmost one. The round cast-iron tower is 39 meters tall and is painted red with 2 white horizontal bands. It doesn't burn during the summer due to the midnight sun. In 1922, the lighthouse got a foghorn with a siren, and the foghorn could be heard from one of 2-tone signal with a range of about 6 nautical miles. The horn was in use until about 1985. In 1998, the lighthouse was listed as a heritage site and was automated in 2005. And yes, it's even possible to visit. During summer, you can visit the quaint cafe for a local meal or coffee and join a guided tour to the lighthouse. You can even spend the night in authentic surroundings. Number 8. The Queenscliff High Light, Australia. The Queenscliff High Light, also known as the Black Lighthouse, is a striking feature in Fort Queenscliff, Victoria, Australia. It's unique as one of the only 3 black lighthouses in the world and the sole example in the southern hemisphere. It was built in 1862 alongside the white Queenscliff low light. It replaced an earlier, less effective sandstone lighthouse from 1843 on the same site. It's positioned about 40 meters above sea level, and its light varies between a steady beam and a blinking signal every 15 seconds, guiding ships through the treacherous entrance. The origins of its dark basalt stones are shrouded in mystery. Some say the stones were ballast from Scotland, while others believe they were quarried in Melbourne and shipped to Queenscliff. Interestingly, despite being located on the elevated Shortlands Bluff, the lighthouse was designed to withstand ocean waves, with curved walls and an entrance originally accessible only by rope ladder, 5 meters above the ground. It wasn't until 10 years later that a ground-level door was added. The fort was built around the lighthouse during the Australian gold rush as a protective measure for gold-laden ships. The lighthouse transitioned from gas lighting in 1890 to electricity in 1924 and was one of the first locations in Victoria to have a public telephone. Today, it's automated and maintained by the Port of Melbourne Corporation, no longer needing a human operator. Moving on to number 7, St. Augustine Light Station in Florida. The St. Augustine Light Station, an active lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida, continues to guide mariners from its position at the north end of Anastasia Island. It was constructed between 1871 and 1874, and this tower is the second to light the area, with its predecessor, Florida's first lighthouse, being lit in 1824. Today, the lighthouse and its grounds are preserved by the St. Augustine Lighthouse and Maritime Museum, a non-profit dedicated to maritime history. It's open 360 days a year, and the museum funds its preservation efforts and the educational programs through admission fees. The restoration of the light began in 1980 when the Junior Service League of St. Augustine took on the project, starting with the keeper's house and later the tower itself. Their efforts led to the lighthouse being listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1981. The site now includes the 165-foot tower from 1874, the 1876 keeper's house, historical kitchens from 1886, and a 1941 Coast Guard barracks. It also serves as a weather station for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, continuing its legacy as a beacon of maritime heritage. Number 6. Dandra Head Lighthouse in Sri Lanka. Dandra Head Lighthouse stands proudly on Dandra Head, the southernmost point of Sri Lanka, and it's not only the tallest lighthouse in the country, but also one of the tallest in Southeast Asia. The name Dandra comes from the Sinhala Devi Nuwara, meaning City of the Gods. It was designed by Sir James Nicholas Douglas and built by William Douglas of the Imperial Lighthouse Service starting in November 1887. Bricks, steel, and even the granite were sourced from Scotland and Cornwall, and by March 1890 the lighthouse was operational, funded by dues from the Bass's Lighthouse totaling about £30,000. Originally, it was equipped with a large hyper-radiant Fresnel lens, just one of a few lighthouses fitted with those advanced lenses at the time. It had incredible range. However, in 2020, this was replaced with a static flashing LED light, which somewhat reduces its range. The lighthouse is about 49 meters tall and it's got about 7 floors, featuring 14 two-panel yellow windows, and requires a climb of 196 steps to reach the top. Dandra Head is also one of Sri Lanka's 4 international lighthouses. It was modernized in 2000 with the addition of a differential global positioning system and linked via computer to other major lighthouses along the coast, ensuring it continues to guide mariners safely. Number 5. South Stack Lighthouse in Wales. The South Stack Lighthouse, established by Trinity House in 1809, marks a small islet just off Anglesey at the northwest tip of Wales. Separated by Holyhead Island by a mere 30 meters of churning sea, this lighthouse stands against a backdrop of towering granite cliffs that rise 60 meters straight from the ocean. The idea for the light first came about in 1665 when a petition for a patent was presented to King Charles II, although it wasn't granted. It wasn't until February 9, 1809 that the lighthouse first lit up the rocky shore. By 1840, a rail system was installed to lower a secondary light down the cliff during foggy conditions when the main light was obscured, and the lighthouse withstood the Royal Charter gale on October 25, 1859, one of the century's worst storms, which led to the wrecking of over 200 vessels. Among these was the steamship Royal Charter, which sank close to the shore, claiming nearly 500 lives. In the mid-1870s, the lighting system received an upgrade with a new lantern, followed by the introduction of incandescent lighting in 1909 and an improved version in 1927. The lighthouse was electrified in 1938, and by September 12, 1984, the lighthouse was fully automated. This iconic structure continues to be a vital navigational aid, safeguarding mariners from the treacherous waters off Wales coast. Number 4. Roter Sand Lighthouse, Germany. The Roter Sand Lighthouse, standing in the North Sea within the Weser estuary, was a pioneering structure when it began service in 1885, being the first building ever erected directly on the sea floor. Although its light was deactivated in 1986, it still serves as a day beacon. In 2010, this iconic lighthouse was recognized as a historical monument of engineering in Germany. It rises over 52 meters from its foundation, with its height above sea level varying with the tides from about 37 meters at low tide. The tower itself is 28 meters tall, and it's uniquely designed with a cylindrical base and a conical upper section. And it's distinctively painted in red and white bands above a black base. This color scheme also cleverly indicates the 5 floors inside the tower. The base of the lighthouse functions as storage, while the stairway up leads to the various living spaces, including a bedroom, a kitchen equipped with a coal-heated oven, and a living and service room. Access to the balcony surrounding the lantern is through the service room, although it's not possible to walk completely around due to one of the larger windows. Interestingly, the layout of the lighthouse rooms have evolved over the decades. For instance, during the 1940s, different levels were used for storage and power generation. Today, this light is not just a historical monument, but also a unique gateway. Day trips from Bremerhaven aboard the Left Typhoon are available during the summer months, and for the more adventurous, overnight stays are possible, offering a truly unique experience. Number 3. Cape Hatteras Light, United States. The Cape Hatteras Light, located on Hatteras Island in Buxton, North Carolina, is a towering beacon within the Cape Hatteras National Seashore. It's known for its distinctive pattern. This light is celebrated as one of the most beautiful and iconic in the U.S. It stands as a vital guide through the perilous waters of Diamond Shoals, aptly nicknamed the Graveyard of the Atlantic due to the numerous shipwrecks here. This region is where the warm waters of the Gulf Stream meet the cold Labrador Current, creating a breeding ground for powerful storms. Recognizing the dangers, Congress authorized the lighthouse's construction in 1794 after a close call experienced by Secretary of Treasury Alexander Hamilton, leading to its affectionate nickname, Hamilton's Light. Standing at 198 feet, it is the tallest brick lighthouse in the U.S. and the second tallest in the world. Despite that impressive height, it ranks as the 15th highest light in the nation, as its base is nearly at sea level. Initially constructed in 1802 with a dark sandstone facade, the original lighthouse emitted from 18 lamps, visible from up to 18 miles away in clear conditions. In a dramatic response to encroaching seas, Cape Hatteras Light was moved 2,900 feet inland in 1999 to protect it from shoreline erosion. This relocation, known as the Move of the Millennium, placed the lighthouse a safer 1,500 feet from the current shoreline, along with its associated support buildings. This monumental effort ensured that the light would continue its legacy of guiding ships safely through one of the most hazardous parts of the Atlantic. Number 2. Fastnet Lighthouse, Ireland. The Fastnet Lighthouse stands as a towering beacon on the remote Fastnet Rock in the Atlantic Ocean, known as Ireland's Teardrop, because it was the last sight of Ireland for many 19th century immigrants heading to North America. This 54-meter-tall lighthouse, the tallest in Ireland, is perched on the rock about 6.5 kilometers southwest of Cape Clear Island and 13 kilometers from the Irish mainland in County Cork. The rock itself is a small clay slate islet with quartz veins rising about 30 meters above the low water mark, separated from the smaller Little Fastnet by a 10-meter-wide channel. The lighthouse visible today is the second one on this location, with the first light shining on January 1, 1854. It was built to replace an earlier lighthouse on Cape Clear Island, prompted by the tragic loss of American sailing packet Stephen Whitney. However, the original lighthouse on Fastnet Rock wasn't sturdy enough to withstand the harsh weather. Even gales were known to displace crockery and once swept away a 200-liter cask of water. Despite efforts to reinforce it, including encasing the base with stone and filling the lower floors with solid material, it was deemed inadequate. By 1891, concerns over its insufficient light, crucial for ships making their first landfall across the Atlantic, led to the decision to build a new one. The current lighthouse, completed in 1904 at a cost of nearly £90,000, continues to stand resilient against the formidable forces of the ocean, marking the rock as a vital navigational aid and a poignant symbol of Irish heritage. Number 1. Harbour Light Tower in Scotland. So we wrap up our tour of fascinating lighthouses by visiting Scotland, home to the world's smallest working lighthouse, which is uniquely powered by vegetable oil. The historic Harbour Light Tower, standing at just 23 feet tall, has a beacon that can shine across 3 miles. It's perched in North Queensferry, commanding a view of the majestic Fourth Rail Bridge. This quaint tower was built in 1817 by students and civil engineer Robert Stevenson to replace an earlier lighthouse from 1811 that was across the street. The original lighthouse was essential for navigating the well-traveled River Forth, but had limitations in fully illuminating the busy ferry crossing. The new Harbour Light Tower featured a better-positioned light room, enhancing visibility along the river, and even inherited the Argand lamp from its predecessor. Although the introduction of the Forth Bridge in 1890 made the Queensferry Passage less vital, leading to the lighthouse's closure in 1964, the passion for preservation prevailed. In 2014, North Queensferry Heritage Trust received the lighthouse, restoring the lamp to working order. Today, not only does this charming little lighthouse function perfectly, but it also serves as a tourist attraction and a museum. The Argand lamp, by the way, with its powerful reflector, magnifies the flame over 2,000 times, ensuring that light can reach up to 3 miles. That transformation from a crucial navigational aid to a celebrated historical site encapsulates a remarkable journey, making the Harbour Light Tower a proud symbol of Scottish heritage and ingenuity. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.